Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another painting session with me. Today we are going to be doing this beautiful loose array of florals, and we're going to be using a combination of the regular watercolors and also metallic watercolors. So really quickly, if you are new to my channel, I do watercolor videos like this on a weekly basis, so please, if you like this video, please consider hitting the like button and also subscribing to my channel so you get notified of other new videos as they come along. So really quickly again, let's go through all the supplies we're going to be needing for this painting. So I'm using my White Nights 36 set of watercolors, and I love it because it's got these amazing reds and pinks and more options for purples and such as well. And then I'm also using the Paul Rubens metallic set of watercolors. Again, I love these because they have so many color options and I do not have to mix or anything like that, especially if I'm trying to really paint quickly and have a quick session to relax. For brushes, I'm using my Mop brush number 1 in Vinci, by Vinci, the round number 8 by ZenART, and this is from their Black Tulip collection. And then finally, for details, I'm using the number 4 Silver Black Velvet. And for paper, I am using Canson Watercolor Excel. So again, if you guys want to have a look at all the supplies that I'm using, please feel free to check them out in the description below. I have listed them along with some affiliate links. So if you are interested in purchasing, you can absolutely purchase from there, but you are not obligated to. Okay, so let's just hop right into creating this beautiful composition together. So I'm going to start off by mixing some colors for our main florals. I'm going to use some of the Quin Rose and just mix that onto my palette right here. And we want the consistency to be about 30-70. And I know once I have this Quin Rose, we can use some of the pearlescent crepe myrtle to kind of give it a nice glow. So I'm using my mop brush to begin, and we're going to start off by doing some very simple loose florals, and I'm going to keep the number 4 handy just so we can dip in and get a second color that goes with this. And for that, just to sort of warn you guys ahead of time, we're going to go and get the cadmium medium. So I'm just going to get some of that onto from the side and just keep that onto my palette here. And making sure I've got enough water, not too much. Perfect. Now we are ready to begin. So I'm going to start off by doing the flower in the center here. And what I'm going to do is press the belly of my brush down and then really like add some side little strokes to it, leaving some white space in there in the center. And then I'm just going to kind of add another little stroke here. Again, notice the white space that I'm leaving, and I'm pushing all the color down. I want all the color down at the base. And then as I've done that, I'm just going to go ahead and add some tiny little dots. And you see that immediate flare of yellow that we get in there. That is what I want. And I'm going all the way around. And now we're just going to go ahead, take the pink, and kind of continue creating a little petals all around. I'm going to get a tad bit more of this color and just add just on the tip of my brush, and I'm just adding it at the bottom here to get that nice flare. And then the next few petals are going to be much in the same manner. Notice the white space that I'm leaving, and then I'm just pressing down my brush to get as like a nice spread of color, leaving it nice and loose and pushing all the color down to the bottom. And again, taking just a little bit more of that Quin Rose, I'm just adding it to the center just so we get a nice bright flare up of color. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much done. Look how simple and easy that was. Just adding more of that yellow. Maybe I can get a nice flare in with the colors that I've just laid down. Perfect. I also like to add a slight different hue that we have here. So I'm going to get some of my English red, and I'm just going to add some of that into the center. I'm just adding tiny little dots and lines in between where the yellow is. And I just want to make the center look a tad more popping. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm just going to get some more of that yellow, add some additional dots. Perfect, and we're going to leave it at that. And now we're going to go on and do one more of these babies. And for that, you know what? I'm going to zoom in for you guys. All right, so we're zoomed in, and again, I'm going to do the exact same thing. What I will do this time, just to get a slight variation of this color, I'm going to mix it in with some of the carmine. And let's just get a slight variation. Let's see what that looks like. So mix some carmine in. We're going to do the exact same thing, okay? So let's get ready with our two brushes, number 4 and Da Vinci number 1. Let's get started. So we are going to start off, this one can be probably like in this direction. So starting off, pressing down, adding these two little curvy bits to the side of it. I'm going to mix a little bit more of the carmine, getting another one in here. Trying to leave a jaggedy edge in the center here. And then I'm finding like the carmine is so close to this. It's okay though. Pressing down again. And now that I have these three, I'm going to go in and add my yellow. So now do you see the flare up that I get over here? That is the prettiness that I like to see. I'm going to get a little bit of the, I have some leftover purple on here, so I'm going to mix that in. Let's just see what kind of colors we get with it. Again, not that far off from what we already have, so that's okay. And here is the last petal. Perfect. Now I'm going to get some of the English red, and I'm adding that to the center as well. And then we are using the mop brush to get a tad bit of our darker hue, and we're going to go and add that to the tips over here. So you know what, for this I'm going to get some more of that purple that I have here on this side. I'm mixing it in with what I have already, and I'm just going to add it to the bottom. And it doesn't look too bad. Looks alright. Kind of blends in, I think, a little bit. Alright, so we've got that happening. Right, so we're going to do one more floral, and I'm adding some of that purple. So I think I'm going to get a little bit more of that purple, as you can see that right here. That's purple, the violet, and sepia, which is on the side. I like to use my leftover paint and kind of just zone out and paint whatever I want to. So for this floral, again, we can do it in the same fashion that we've done these two. Let's just kind of position it off here, and this one we can make it facing upward. So we'll do one petal here, pressing down, and then I'm just getting the tip of my brush in water. And then I'm going to press down and get another petal on here. Notice the amount of white space I'm leaving, guys. That is so integral for painting in this fashion and manner. And then we'll do 1/3 one over here. Then I'm just going to add some outskirt petals. Before I do that, I want to take advantage of the fact that it's damp, and I'm just going to add dark hues at the bottom, maybe even at the top a little bit. Differentiate the petals from one another, kind of thing. All right, so now that I have that, what I want to do is just add a couple of strokes. That's too dark. So I'm just washing off the brush from my number 4, and I'm going to go in and just try and take out some color here. So this was a mistake, right? And kind of maybe just spread it around a little bit. Make it look like these are background petals for our little top flower that we have happening. Make it look full and interesting, but making sure that these petals are looking lighter than what we have in the forefront. All right, perfect. And now we'll add our little bit of yellow. I just noticed you guys were slightly off, or the camera was slightly off for this area. So that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to redo this flower because we've got 3. Let's do another one. And this way you can kind of mimic the same thing. So this flower that we kind of did here, let's do one down here facing upward in this direction. And again, feel free to either use the same color or a different variation of the color. And I'm going to continue using the leftover colors that I have. So going ahead, getting some of my paint, I am going to go ahead and start painting right here. I'm tilting it slightly so I can get the right directions. So pressing down, we're making sure that these petals are facing, the flower is going to be facing upward in this direction. Getting a little bit of color, dipping the tip in water. I'm going to create my second petal right here. Just doing a side petal over there. Perfect. I'll do one flapping outward as well. And then finally I'm going to go in with my number 4. And I'm going to make sure that it's a little watered down, and then press ahead, press the belly of the brush to get some background petals happening ever so lightly. Over here. So you got to play around with exactly how dark you want it. Maybe even get some of that pink involved. Make it loose, don't overwork these areas. Kind of allow it to be fluffy looking. And for that you kind of just have to like fluff it about, leave it open-ended. Perfect. So I'm going to leave that as is. And now we're going to go ahead and add some yellow just like we did at the top. So the yellow again, I'm using cadmium medium. So just adding some of that right here in the center. Well, in like the background, which is meant to be the center. And fluffing it around because it's still pretty damp. All right, so now that we've done that, we can kind of move on. Actually, before we move on to greenery, let's add, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add one more floral, and then we can move on to our greenery. So for this floral, yes, I'm going to use some of the Quin Lilac, and I'm mixing some of that onto the side. And I think I'll make this one very similar to what we've been doing already, just maybe on a tinier, smaller scale. And let's do that over at the bottom here. So let's do it kind of facing upward. We have these ones. So we're doing the same technique, very loosely, creating our petals, pressing down in the belly of the brush so we can get a nice full lay of color without going over it multiple times. And we're leaving it at that. Then taking some more color, just adding it to the center. And then once we've done that, kind of swish it around if it's not going around as much. Cheat a little, that's okay. And then going in with the number 4, getting some of the cadmium medium lemon and adding that to our center and allowing it to kind of spread around. And if it does something like that, just kind of swoosh it down if you want to get like a cleaner blend and there's too much color or water or whatever. Leave it that way, yep. And finally, just getting a very tiny bit of English red and just adding it to the center. Same area, just so we've got a hint of that color just like we have in the other flowers. Alright, so that's all our flowers. Now we're going to go into some greens and then we will end off with adding some touches of metallics. So I want to keep this looking nice and light and vibrant. I'm just going to close this, put this aside until we're ready to use it. Move this over so you can see some of my color as I am mixing it in. And so for that, I think I'm going to be using some of my chromium oxide, some olive green, and mixing it in with the green. So I'm going to let you guys know exactly what I'm doing as I'm going along. I just want to make sure you are able to see clearly. Yes, you are. So I'm mixing some of my chromium oxide first. And I've got a lot of green happening here already for the leaf virtual class that's coming up. Feel free to use colors that you guys prefer. I'm just using what I like. And so I've got some of that chromium oxide green, and then I'm going to mix it in with some of the green. And I like this color. And so for our first set of big florals, we're going to be using the number 8 from the Zen line of colors. And we are ready to begin. So I'll just start off by doing some of the bottom, which is just pressing down, trailing off very loosely, pushing all the color down to the center, maybe even getting some color directly from the cake, adding it right there. Very, very loosely. And then just adding a stem. I know I always add stems to my paintings. You don't really need to if you don't want to. You can kind of leave them and fill them with leaves if you really wanted to. Alright, so let's do some leaves happening here. And getting more color, I'm going to add second stroke. I'm trying to make these leaves very loose using the full length of my brush, keeping some kind of outward, trying to give them movement as well. Right, just adding some darker tones at the bottom of this. Then let's do some of that greenery happening over here. And I'm just going to do one more stroke here because this looks kind of weird, in my opinion. Perfect. That's fine. Let's do some at the very bottom. So if leaves are something you guys are struggling with, I suggest you should definitely check out the leaf tutorial virtual class that's coming up. And it should be a lot of fun because I am planning to show you guys a couple of different leaf ideas that you can add to your paintings and enhance them. So here's one. I'm going to make sure I do, let's do some in between as well. And then some obviously at the bottom, mixing in some more color. Just get another darker variation of this green maybe. There we go. Getting some water and then creating the second stroke. So your 2-stroke leaves. Great. And I really like how that looks. It's simple, easy to do. Let's do some leaves happening over at the top. Just like that. So you notice I'm doing my leaves in 3s. I kind of like to do them in 3s. It's a designer thing. 3s are what you should be doing. I'm just going to add an extension here and just add a couple of tinier looking ones. I like that. I like the delicate looking leaves. It kind of adds something quite nice to a painting, generally speaking. And then let's add some over on this end. So these are the big leaves that we're doing, kind of spreading them around. So we've got this color nicely reflected all over. And then lastly, I think we'll just do some over here at the bottom or off to the side. I want to do one coming out there. This is all dried up, I think. And then just adding some of that darker hue at the bottom. All right, so that's it for our darker leaves. And now we're gonna go on and add some more enhanced, tinier looking leaves. So for the tinier looking leaves, I want to use the leftover Quin Lilac Violet along with the sepia that I have. So I'm mixing that up, and I'm going to use the number 4 to go ahead and start creating some nice, pretty leaves around. And we're gonna go ahead and start doing the stem first and then kind of adding tiny leaves, much in a very similar fashion like the large ones, except we're not using a large brush, we're using a smaller one. So we have a nice variety of different leaf sizes. So I mixed a little bit more right here. So we've got like this purpley brown color. Now we're gonna start off by creating some leaves, stems first, then giving it, using the tip, pressing down, trailing off. Some cute little leaves all around and enhancing our cute painting. So just like that, we're gonna kind of go around and paint these in, okay? Let's add some over here. So try and add a different variety of different sizes if you can, using the number 4. So you notice I'm doing my leaves from out in and also from the stem outward as well. So there's no real right or wrong way of doing this. It really depends on what you're comfortable with, what you're used to, and how you want to do it. So kind of go for it. Try different variations and see what works for you. Gonna go ahead and do some over on this end here. I want to make sure you guys can see it. Some nice cute color happening there. I'll do some happening just at the tip here for some visual interest, so it looks like they're kind of blending in. Let's do some at the bottom here.
Perfect. And I'll do some at the absolute bottom over here as well. So that's great. Let's see. I'm gonna fill some of this area here. Maybe just adding a couple of hints of color in there in between. Some at the top here would be nice as well. So we're just gonna go ahead and making sure nothing is damp. Very loosely. Perfect. And now I think we can go ahead and create some of the stuff using our metallics. So get ready to use some of the metallics, guys. All right, so for the metallics as well, I am going to be using the number 4 because I just want to add tiny little details. And then we can add some nice greenery as well, some additional greenery, just like one other green tone, just to kind of really make things pop. And so for that, first thing I'm going to do is get some of the crepe myrtle, and I'm going to start painting or adding some enhancements to our purpley little florals right there. So I'm getting that on the side. I want to make sure that you guys are able to see my screen more than me mixing, so here goes. So I'm just adding some nice loose little detail or strokes on the outskirts, and just a tiny bit within our regular watercolor bits as well. And just gonna highlight some areas in and around the flower, adding tiny strokes to kind of make it look full and fluffy. Maybe even add a couple of strokes within this area too, which is this background petal bit that I had initially mentioned to you guys. So just tiny to kind of really make it pop a bit, right? So we've done that. Let's do the next purple one, which is down here. And just adding strokes. Notice I am just pressing down on the belly of the brush and adding tiny strokes on the outskirts to kind of really make it seem loose. You can kind of add some at the edges just a little bit, just like that. And then finally, I think this one here can use some. I'm going to use the Symphony Purple for that and highlight some of these areas here. So Symphony Purple is a nice muted tone, which is also quite nice. And literally it looks like you're kind of layering, and it's light, so you're not able to see it unless you're really, I guess, holding it in proper lighting and looking at it that way. And so now the background strokes that I'm doing, I just want them to be light so that they look like they're fading off. So that's it. And let's see. I think that's it for these. We can move on to the pink ones now. For the pink, I think I'm going to use some of the, there's so many like really pretty pinks that they have. but I think I'm going to use some of the Flare Red. And so I'm going to get some of that right now. So I just want something light, nothing too overpowering. And we're going to go ahead and start adding little strokes just within our painting there. And maybe even like on the outskirts a little bit. And what this is going to do, these strokes are mainly for, I guess, when you, yeah, I've mentioned this before. You're going to be able to see some outlining, but you're not going to be able to see it unless, I guess, the shine, unless you kind of hold it a certain way in the lighting. And right now, this one has a really pretty shine. So I'm going to add some tiny little strokes just on the outskirts. And then this one is swoop underneath. We get some water. You can see, like I deliberately went slightly outward on this petal here so you could see some shine. Perfect. Yeah. And that's it for the pink. I think there's just one more here. Making them really like pop and shine so that it looks like it's almost like vibrating with some pretty glitter. Giving it some depth maybe. A little bit, maybe, no? Okay, so that's that for the flowers. And now we can kind of go ahead and add some green. Now I really like their dark green that they have in this collection, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And that is already off to the side here. So for these leaves, we're going to do something something nice and kind of like grass maybe. Let's try and do something that looks kind of like grass. So if we just do very lightly and just kind of add some strokes, just kind of poking out that way. And that is perfect, I think. I think it adds, this adds some nice, beautiful shape to our additional shape variety to our collection here of things. Try and get different colors or variations of the color here. I'll add some falling down this way. This is a little bit too thick, but this can be construed as it's multiple all at once, maybe. Why not, right? So I've got some here falling over, and then let's do some poking out this way. Again, notice how I am going really lightly with the strokes. Maybe even try and get the tallest stroke to be really thin. Something like that. And then we can add a couple happening over here. Great. And I think, to be very honest, this is looking quite pretty and good enough. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add some at the very bottom here. And then we can call it quits. So we've got some up there, here, here, here. Perfect. These are kind of, this one's a little bit too thick. I don't really care for it that much, but it's okay. Sometimes it happens, things happen, and it's all good. And I think that is it. Let me just take one last final look and see if there's anything else you could add anywhere. I think this is good for the sake of this video. Oh, I'm just going to do some over here. I don't want to keep this video too long or make this too long, so we're going to end right here. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you thought. If you like this video, please hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe, as I do a lot of other videos of a similar nature. Every other Sunday is a Sunday live, and we paint something pretty together. So kind of like this, or depending on what the theme is, really. What else? Oh yes, please do tag me on social media so I can see your gorgeous work, guys. So definitely tag me, and looking forward to seeing your beautiful work. Thanks, guys, for watching, and